What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the Giants are 0-2. They lost yesterday in heartbreaking fashion. I mean, it was an entertaining game. I really thought the Giants were going to pull it out, but absolute heartbreaker at the end, losing on a field goal from the Dallas Cowboys. Now the Giants are 0-2. What do they do next? Well, we'll discuss that throughout the week, but today we just want to react to this loss and give you guys our instant analysis, reaction, recap, all of that, and talk about how bad Shane Bowen's defense was at the end of the game. Talk about Russell Wilson and the boneheaded interception amidst an incredible performance from him. Wan'Dale Robinson, a breakout star. There was a lot to take away from this game. Improved offensive line play, an unbelievable, unprecedented number of penalties. So much happened in these four quarters, plus overtime. So we're going to go ahead and discuss and recap it and give you guys our reaction to it. Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? You've had an evening to process the loss. Now here we are the next day. It doesn't sting any less. This loss still really sucks. But I have to say, I think that there are some positives to take away from this game. As sad as it is that we are 0-2, as tough as a loss as it was, there were definitely some positives to take away, in my opinion. But how are you feeling after the loss, and what's your reaction to it?
I mean, how am I feeling? A bit let down. I feel like this team did enough. The offense put up 37 points. One of the best offensive performances we've seen from this team in, a decade. Russell Wilson had one of the best games of his career. He answered the call, and that's what he said after the game. But it still shows up as a loss in the standings. You know what I mean? No matter how good they performed and how good they looked, the penalties, the miscommunications, the lack of discipline, it all reared its ugly head once again. And again, it's a coaching issue, right? Russell Wilson bailed them out with his vintage moon ball. Neighbors had an unbelievable game. Wan'Dale had an unbelievable game. And it still didn't matter, right? They had some really big standout performances. Guys like Marcus Bowe stepped in and saved the day. But they need more. And specifically from their defense, Deonte Banks got shredded when he was on the field. Paulson Adebo had a really bad day. Cordell Flott had a decent day. Drew Phillips had a good day. He had some big third down stops. But the, entire scheme is problematic. We're going to dive into that. It's a big portion of this episode for sure. But I have no qualms with the offense. I have no qualms with the play calling. I have no problems with how they managed the offense. They opened things up. They went downfield. I think the run game still has a little bit left to be desired, but I was very encouraged by Cam Scottaboo, who had over 4 yards per carry. Everything I saw from the offense suggested they're trending in a much better direction. The offensive line looked solid for the most part, but a lot left to be desired. We have 2 games against the Chiefs and Chargers, which gauntlet, really tough, really difficult situation there to kind of sift through and try to bounce back from a game that we should have won, and we should be 1-1 right now. But, Anthony, where do you want to start here? Obviously, a lot to kind of digest and break down. But yeah, how am I doing? I'm pretty miserable today.
Yeah, I'm actually going to start with the offense because I do disagree with something that you said. I get being encouraged by this offense. I certainly am as well, and I have a lot of praise to hand to this offense. But you said you have no qualms with it, and that's where I do disagree. I think that this game, yes, was lost by the defense at the end, not able to close out the game, but this game should have been won by the third quarter because the Giants' offense had so many red zone opportunities that they squandered. So that's my big gripe with this offense. When they got down into the red zone, they couldn't figure out what to do. The only reason, Alex, that they put up as many points as they did is because of those moon balls, because Russ was scoring touchdowns from 30, 40, 50 yards away. That's why they had all those points. Once they got into the red zone, it was like Mike Kafka didn't know what to do with the team. It was like Russell Wilson didn't even know where to go with the football. So the red zone offense is still a major issue for me, and they need to get that solved because this game came down to the wire, went to overtime because they didn't score in the red zone in the first quarter. They had 3 opportunities in the first quarter. They walked away with 6 points. That's inexcusable, and that's damning. That's the reason that they lost. But there's a lot of reasons why they lost. And you're right. There's a lot to praise the offense for. The offensive line was significantly better in week 2 versus week 1. They allowed only 9 pressures on 41 dropbacks. Russ was hit, or he was hurried 7 times. He was hit only a couple. I mean, he got the ball out quick, and the offensive line held up after they took James Hudson out of the game. And I know you want to talk about Marcus Bowe, Alex, so we'll go ahead and we could start there with a positive. Marcus Bowe looked great. He was the real deal in this game. As soon as they pulled James Hudson out of the lineup, which happened too late in my opinion. That should have happened before the game even started. I mean, we were calling for Marcus Bowe to start in week 2 after watching James Hudson play in week 1. But James Hudson gets pulled after what was truly a historically bad drive of football. He had a sack allowed on that play, or on that drive. He had 4 penalties on that drive. I've never seen an offensive lineman, a single player, implode the way that James Hudson did and absolutely kill a drive for a team. That was unbelievable. But of course, they pulled him from the game. It's 11 a.m. as we're recording right now. I'm hoping by noon James Hudson is released and is no longer a member of the New York Giants, because that was a fireable offense yesterday. He needs to be cut for what he did on that first drive of the game. But from the second drive onward, Marcus Bowe looked the part. He played just as great as he did all throughout the preseason, and he is going to be your starting left tackle until Andrew Thomas gets back. And I'm really encouraged by what we saw from Marcus Bowe and the whole entire offensive line throughout the second half of that game. Yes, there were moments of pressure. That's inevitable. The Dallas Cowboys did blitz quite a lot in the second half, but Russ stood strong in the pocket, and he had a pocket to stand in because the offensive line did their job finally in week 2 for the New York Giants. So, Alex, I know you're really excited about Marcus Bowe. What's your reaction to the way that he performed, the offensive line in general, and of course, the James Hudson implosion?
I mean, what we saw from James Hudson, you heard us on the live stream, was one of the worst offensive tackle performances we've ever seen. Like, not in recent memory, ever in history. This dude had multiple, I think 4 penalties in the first drive, 5 penalties on the first drive. 2 of them were like unnecessary roughness for 15 yards apiece. And then he got blown by in every other snap that he wasn't getting called a penalty on. So, yeah, I mean, they had to make that change. I'm glad they did. If they didn't, it would have been a fireable offense for everybody. But listen, Marcus Bowe, let me guys tell you something. He had 2 pressures and 51 snaps on in that game. I was just watching the entire film from him in that game. He held his own quite nicely, and he looks raw at left tackle. Don't get me wrong. His footwork, he looks like he's just surviving for the most part, but because he's such a good athlete, he's able to recover and he's able to manage, himself at a relatively competent level. Let me tell you something right now. Do you know how many snaps Marcus Bowe played at left tackle in college at Purdue? 0. He played 0 snaps at left tackle. He played a couple snaps at left tackle in the preseason in his first NFL action ever, and the Giants threw him into the fire against the Cowboys in Arlington off a whim, just hoping for anything better, and he stepped in and rose to the occasion and gave the Giants a chance to win that football game, right? I give him a lot of credit for that, because if they didn't have anybody else, I don't think we were even putting up 20 points, let alone 37. So, they really needed someone to step up, and Bowe, who had never played the position before ever in a regular season game at the collegiate or NFL level, went out there and did his best. And it looked rocky. It looked, not refined, but he managed. And like you said, he's the starting left tackle until Andrew Thomas returns. And in my opinion, Marcus Bowe, that swing tackle position is solved. James Hudson is, like you said, should be cut for that performance. They won't cut him because they just invested $12 million into him, but he will be gone after this season, 150%. But Bowe, you look at the situation right now with Jermaine Illuminor, he's in a contract year. He doesn't want to move from right tackle. He wants to make his bread there. He wants to perform well and capitalize on a bigger deal. So they're not going to move him from right tackle because he probably does not want to be moved. But having a competent swing tackle behind them and just let Bowe learn, develop, and refine his technique, go play when he needs to, that's a fine reality. And he can start at right tackle next year as your everyday starter. So the Giants have a solution, a silver lining from this game. They cashed in on a flyer in the 5th round, and that is a massive deal for a team that has been unable to develop offensive line talent for like a decade. So Bowe is a change, maybe a breaking of the bad omen. He is a guy that turns the page there, new chapter. Hopefully it ends a really bad stretch of poor development on this line, and I'm pretty encouraged by what I saw.
I'm extremely encouraged by what I saw from Marcus Bowe. All throughout the summer, definitely in the preseason, and now getting his first extended action in the regular season, he answered the call. You said that earlier for Russell Wilson, how the offense, how Russ was answering the call throughout the game. I thought Marcus Bowe was thrown into a really tricky situation against Dallas. I mean, one drive into the game, and all of a sudden, this rookie fifth round pick is being asked to play big minutes at one of the most important positions in the entire sport. And he looked like a night and day upgrade over James Hudson, a veteran who's getting paid $6 million per season. So hats off to Marcus Bowe. It wasn't perfect. He did surrender 2 pressures in the game, but so did James Hudson, and James Hudson was only on the field for 1 drive, albeit a long drive, but 1 drive. So I really liked what we saw from Marcus Bowe. I'm with you. He's the swing tackle. I think he's got a chance to start more games later on this season, even when Andrew Thomas is back. I think there's going to be opportunities to work Marcus Bowe onto the offensive line, and I do think that the Giants have a potential option to start in their 5 next year in 2026. And when you're looking at these rookies, a lot of what you're thinking about is the future. So Cam Scadaboo stepped in, looked great yesterday, but really we're looking at him as the future. Jackson Dart got some snaps. He's the future. So these guys, I think, are going to be positioned to really take over this team in 2026. Marcus Bowe, Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo, they're going to play big minutes throughout the rest of this year at times, but 2026 is when they're going to be those full-time starters, and I've been encouraged by everything we've seen from all 3 of those guys so far. So I want to talk more about these rookies, especially Scadaboo, because the Giants seem to have a new starting running back, Alex, but first, I do want to dive into some of the negatives, because this was a loss, and it was a heartbreaking loss, and there are a lot of negatives to pull away from it. Now, the penalties were inexcusable. This is an undisciplined and unprepared football team. What did they have? 161 yards in penalties? How does that happen? And then that's not even telling the full story, because they had an additional 70 or so yards in penalties that were either declined or, offset. Over 200 yards in penalties committed by a team. That is an indictment not only on Shane Bowen, who we're going to talk about. It's an indictment on Mike Kafka because there were holdings. It's an indictment on Brian Dable more so than anything, because this football team was undisciplined on Sunday afternoon. There's a couple of things that if you just alter in this game, the red zone efficiency, for example, if you alter that, the Giants win. The penalties, you cut those down in half and the Giants win this game. You get after Dak Prescott a little bit better. You cover a little bit better in the prevent defense. Ridiculous calls that Shane Bowen was making. You win this game. There were so many opportunities to win, and the Giants beat themselves. They found ways to lose, and that's what bad football teams do. That's what poorly coached football teams do, and that's what undisciplined football teams do. That's how I felt coming out of that performance yesterday. I felt like Brian Dable's team was undisciplined and unprepared and poorly coached. I don't know if you feel the same way, Alex. I'm sure you do. But I think when you're looking at the number of penalties, first and foremost, Brian Dable needs to step up and needs to take accountability for that and needs to make a major change.
I mean, how many penalties? 10, 15 penalties that they have?
I think it was 16 for 161.
16. Dude.
But that's not including the several that were offset.
Right. They play undisciplined football. They're an undisciplined team. They have roughing the passer penalties. They have, unnecessary roughness penalties. What? Tell me the stat.
It was 21 times they were penalized.
20? I mean, that is a coaching issue. There becomes a point where, okay, one player like James Hudson having a bad day like that is like, all right, that's on James Hudson. But when you have 21 penalties and half your team is being penalized for stuff like this, listen, I do think there was some penalties that were certainly a bit egregious, like the roughing the passer from Roy Robertson Harris, that first one, the flops from Dak Prescott. Like, there were some penalties that were bad. But in coverage, I watched Deontay Banks have 2 really bad penalties, like bad ones. I saw Drew Phillips had a penalty. I saw Paulson Adebo have a couple penalties. Like, there was enough blame to go around, no doubt about it. Tyler Nubin had a pretty bad day with his tackling, and it's not penalties per se, but just popped into my head. That is a coaching issue, right? Like, you need to have a disciplined team who knows how to tackle, knows the rules of the game, is instinctual in the moment. You have to be thinking about those things in the moment. And the Giants don't do that, right? That is a coaching issue, but it was the defense, right? Do I blame Brian Dable? Of course, he's the head coach, but I blame Shane Bowen. He needs to demand more from his team. This is a team that has way more talent than 40 points would suggest they just gave up against the Cowboys, right? I mean, Javon Holland is one of the best free safeties in football just 2 years ago. He should be a much better player than what we've seen so far. Tyler Nubin showed so much potential. He looks like he's regressing in year 2. Drew Phillips looked fantastic, but Paulson Adebo got cooked yesterday by everyone that went up against him. Deonte Banks has taken absolutely no steps in the right direction. In fact, I think he needs to be benched permanently for Cordell Flott, who looked really solid yesterday. The pass rush, I mean, Kayvon, Burns, and Abdul Carter had 10 combined pressures, but they should have had more like 15 plus. Like, they did not use them, or maximize their potential, in my opinion. Dexter Lawrence hasn't been the same guy. I think he's still bouncing back. Their linebackers, Okereke I love the guy, Okereke, but he has been just, how do I say, very inefficient to start the season, missing tackles, making wrong reads. He's like just a couple steps behind in coverage. The scheme does not lend itself to basically anybody on this team, right? The scheme they have a lot of talent, and the talent's elevating things, but even then, like, the scheme is so bad that nobody can succeed in this, right? That we're talking 3rd and longs, and they're playing at the sticks, right? Press them, force, have coverage over top, have 2 high safeties, press them, cover the boundaries, drop your linebackers into space, let your front 4 get after the quarterback. You know what I mean? Let your elite pass rush do the dirty work and lock them down in coverage. They're playing so off. They're giving Prescott plenty of time to make his decisions and see the ball and make the reads and make the throws predetermined. Like, the defense is really bad because Shane Bowen's scheme exposes all of their weaknesses. So, the negatives are very much schematic based, in my opinion. Of course, the disciplinary problems are coaching related, and some individuals have to play better, but they're not maximizing player strengths. What we saw on the offensive side maximize player strengths yesterday with Neighbors, Wandale, Russ. They did exactly what they needed to do. Those strengths were exposed. But the Giants on defense are the exact opposite. So, I'm going to get your thoughts on that, just Shane Bowen, his scheme, and kind of where that is going right now.
I, for the life of me, never would have predicted that the Giants were going to be losing football games this season because of their defense and not their offense. I thought they would lose games because of the offense. What have we known about this offense for the last several years? It's stagnant, it can't score in the red zone, it can't hit explosive plays. None of those things were true. I mean, the red zone issues kind of remained, but they were hitting explosive plays. I mean, Russ's moonball was beautiful to watch. Malik Neighbors was everything we've hyped him up to be. Wandale Robinson was everything Alex has hyped him up to be. He was incredible. The offense was excellent, and the Giants still lost this game. That is something I did not expect to say, because if the Giants' offense has been excellent at any point in the past, they've found a way to win, because the few moments where the offense has been excellent are the few wins that they've had over the last few years. They haven't won a lot of football games, and that's been because of the offense. We said during the summer, we don't think that there's a world where this defense isn't at least a top 10 to 15 unit, right? We thought that this offense was going to still probably not be so good. We thought the offense was going to hold this team back, but the defense would be good enough. We said before, at least we know we're not going to lose games because of our defense. Well, what just happened yesterday? We lost games because of our defense. We lost that game because of Shane Bowen, though. Let's get that clear. Because the pass rushers came to play. Kayvon Thibodeau is having a hot start to this season. He looked great yesterday. Brian Burns is playing at an all-pro level through 2 games. He has 3 sacks. He has a handful of tackles already. I think he has 9 on the season. He has 4 tackles for loss. He's making plays against the run, but he is getting after the quarterback at the most efficient level that he's had at any point in his career. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau. Abdul Carter, graded low by PFF. I don't care. They graded him low because he missed some tackles. He missed those tackles the same way Micah McFadden does. 5 yards in the backfield. He disrupted the plays. Abdul Carter will be fine. Don't buy into the PFF grades bullshit. He looked good. So there's your 3 pass rushers. Dexter Lawrence, I know that he's been quiet, quote unquote quiet, according to Giants fans. He had 5 pressures yesterday. He's still making an impact, and he's quiet because he's doubled and tripled teamed all the time. Last year, he had all those sacks early in the season, and that was impressive, but you can't expect consistent production from that player who's being constantly doubled and triple teamed. So I'm not worried about Dex. I think the defensive line is living up to the hype. But once you get to that second level, once you get to that third level, this New York Giants team is completely lost in translation. They do not know what they're doing. We thought that pass rush would help out the secondary. The secondary doesn't have to cover for as long. Well, it doesn't matter how long they have to cover for because they're losing within the first second of the route. they're also sitting back 15 yards off the line of scrimmage and letting the receivers catch the ball. And that wouldn't be such a big deal to me, Alex, if they wanted to sit in these soft zones and sit back and allow the receivers to make the catch. Wouldn't be a huge deal if they could tackle. But they can't fucking tackle. They miss every tackle. It's ridiculous. So I get what Shane Bowen's going for. I get that he wants to sit on a 2nd and 15, sit back, let them catch the ball 5 yards from the line of scrimmage and make the tackle, bring up 3rd and 10. But they can't do it. They cannot execute because they miss the tackle, and then all of a sudden it's 3rd and 1.
They missed 5 tackles yesterday. Just
at least. You say 5, I say there was probably 15. I don't know, because there's all those little moments where they miss an angle, and so they don't even make it a tackle attempt.
They missed 6 in run defense and only 5 in coverage. They missed 11 tackles combined yesterday.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. They cannot tackle. I mean, how many opportunities did they have to tackle Javonte Williams at the line of scrimmage, and all of a sudden he's bouncing off of 3 guys and he's off for 15 yards? I mean, that happened several times. But how about George Pickens catches a ball in the flat? Okay, that should be a tackle of a gain of maybe 2 yards, and then he picks up 15 yards inexplicably on the play. It happened over and over and over again. And so I get why Bowen was sitting back in coverage sometimes so that the defense could run up and make those short tackles, short gains, but they couldn't make the tackles. And then at the end of the game, when you want to play tight, when you want to make sure that the quarterback doesn't have time in the pocket and can't throw the ball to an open guy, that's when he's really sitting back and he's allowing them to pick up 10 yards a pop. Does he not know who Brandon Aubrey is? This guy is AI. Brandon Aubrey is not real, bro. Like, he makes kicks from 65 yards out in his sleep. The guy is unconscious when he's stepping up to kick a field goal to beat the New York Giants. And Shane Bowen is sitting back, allowing the Cowboys to pick away at the defense, gain all that yardage, and set up Brandon Aubrey for a deep kick and an opportunity to tie and win the game. Twice it happened. So I don't understand fundamentally what Shane Bowen was thinking towards the end of the game. Because again, even when they were sitting back, they weren't able to make the tackles. So that wasn't working either. So now the obvious adjustment to me is get in the face of the receivers, get in the face of Dak Prescott, and play tight coverage. And he just refused to do it. So I think Shane Bowen is the biggest issue with the New York Giants right now. I think even Mike Kafka had a great game in the second half for sure. Russell Wilson, the quarterback position, is upgraded like we said it would be. The receivers played their asses off. Like I broke it down, the defensive line turned in a solid performance. Secondary sucked, but it just felt like it was a product of Shane Bowen's mismanagement. And it felt like malpractice, Alex. What are you thinking about Shane Bowen and the defense? I know you brought some great stats there on the missed tackles. I'm sure you have other stats to rip my heart out and stab it once again here, but Shane Bowen really has me pulling out my hair on this Monday morning.
I think you really said it best. I don't really need to give you the stats because there were individual performances that I thought were really good. Brian Burns looked fantastic. Carter got into the backfield on a couple run plays like we saw McFadden do. They had him basically do the same thing. They were having him play like inside linebacker, shooting the gaps, and he did it with ease. Like, he was blowing past centers and everybody. He's so strong. As Carter really gets into his groove here, as he really starts to gain momentum, like, he's going to become a really dangerous player. He already has that impact in him. When they get a better scheme, when they get a better defensive coordinator, and they will, like, if the Giants end up moving on from Bowen, and they will end up moving on after this season at the very latest, there are going to be defensive analysts and assistants and whoever or even veteran guys that are out there that are dying to work with this group, right? Dying to. You get to work with Dexter Lawrence, Carter, Burns, Kayvon, and obviously some really good secondary pieces. You have the chance to work with those guys. Like, you're going to jump at the bit to do that. So the Giants are going to have no problem finding a really good coordinator next year. They're just rolling with what they have now, and they didn't fire Bowen because, well, one, nobody wanted to join a sinking ship before they saw the talent, and two, they wanted an ounce of consistency, and they wanted the defense to have some, at least experience already in the system. Unfortunately, that doesn't matter when the system's absolute dog shit. So, I think you said it best. He wants to play off ball. He wants to let receivers, he wants to mitigate those big plays downfield. And for the most part, the Giants didn't give up like massive plays 30 yards downfield. Like, they just missed every big tackle in every big moment. They don't tackle well. That's a coaching problem to me. The way that they wrap up, I watched Paulson Adebo and Banks, by the way, the lack of effort in his tackling is such a big concern to me. He has to be benched. Like, he cannot play anymore until he shows effort. I watched him meet someone in the hole and literally just let him run by. I watched him run by. And That is unacceptable at the NFL level. That stuff gets you benched, and he should be benched because Cordell Flott looked exponentially better. So like that's my first point. My second point is they tackle high, right? Against running backs and tight ends. I'm like, dude, you cannot tackle guys 50, 60 pounds heavier than you around their shoulders. They're not going to go down. You know what I mean? That you have to go for their legs. You have to go for their feet. You have to try to wrap them up and let other guys rally to the football, slow them down at the very least, right? But it wasn't only the fact that their tackling technique is poor, which is a coaching issue. It's that their angles are also poor. Tyler Nubin took some horrific angles. Bobby Okereke took some horrific angles to the ball that completely missed in the open field. Not even competitive. The only guy that I saw that was really competitive in the open field tackling was Drew Phillips, who was locked down in that regard. So, I do think that the Giants have some individuals who get it, who understand and have good fundamentals, but the majority of their players are poorly coached and do not have good fundamentals. And that is a coaching issue on Shane Bowen and his assistants, right? That is what it is. It's not like the running game was insane. The interior defensive line actually was pretty good in stopping the run with Dexter Lawrence and Roy Robertson Harris yesterday. It was their edge rushers and their cornerbacks on the outside that could not step in and help. Their linebackers were too slow to the football. Their edge rushers missed some tackles. The cornerbacks were a disaster. The safeties were horrible in tackling as well. You cannot have a successful defense if you cannot tackle, and the Giants are proving to us that they cannot do that. That should be a priority. They should be working on that in practice every single day. But they're professionals, man. They should know how to tackle. So, I'm going to blame Shane Bowen, but I also have to blame the players too. They are professional football players. They should know how to freaking tackle in big moments, and it always tends to happen. Like the biggest plays, the biggest moments, like the Javonte Williams run and George Pickens, run after the catch. They make those mistakes when they absolutely can't afford to make them. You know what I mean? Just non-clutch factor is what I would say. And the offense bailed them out over and over again, which is a rarity for the Giants, by the way. But it's a problem on a player perspective. It's a problem from the coaching perspective. Shane Bowen's days are numbered here. I would honestly wouldn't be surprised if he was fired midseason if they don't get substantially better over the next 6-7 weeks.
Yeah, I just don't know who would replace him, but I don't disagree with you. I mean, if this Giants defense continues to, fail, just flat out fail week in and week out, yeah, there's going to be a change made, and it's going to be a justified change made. So, Alex, I want to talk about the running back position with Cam Skadaboo kind of leading the race yesterday as the lead starting running back. But real quick, before we dive into that segment, I do want to just give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, which is Sleeper. Sleeper, want to win up to 100 times your money on game day? Sleeper is the #1 sports app with real-time scores, lightning-fast news, and daily fantasy picks that take just seconds. Choose more or less on your favorite player's stats, cash in fast, and even chat with friends while you play. Download Sleeper today and use promo code FIRESIDE for a 100% deposit match up to $100. Alex, we had a Sleeper pick that we made on one of these episodes a few days ago for the Giants game. It banged. I 5 times to my money on that one. It was an awesome pick that we put together. And I'm excited for tonight's Monday night games. We've got Chargers versus Raiders. That should be a good divisional matchup. We've got Bucks versus Texans. 2 good games on the slate for tonight. And I'm going to make some picks, and I'm really excited. And right now, guys, over on Sleeper, they've got the Ashton Genty rushing touchdown pick times 2.1, which is up from 1.77. That's their special today. So definitely throwing that in one of my picks, hoping that Ashton Genty can take a halfback dive into the end zone. And maybe also, I think I'm going to throw Emeka Egbuka in there as well, over 53.5 yards. I know you're a big Egbuka fan, Alex. And one other guy, this could be a sleeper, no pun intended, pick that I'm going to take here. Kaimi Fairbairn, over 1.5 field goals made. That is... Yeah, I like that, man. He's a really good kicker, and he looked really good last week. So that's going to be a three picks for 5.31 times my money. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that one in and have some fun tonight watching the games while playing with the Sleeper app. So guys, once again, use the promo code FIRESIDE for a 100% deposit match up to $100. Thank you to Sleeper for sponsoring this episode. Alex, Cam Skadaboo! Scadaboo! He scored his first career touchdown yesterday. He looked good. He led the team in carries. He was the starting running back yesterday for all intents and purposes. What was your impression of him, and why do you think Tyrone Tracy Jr. has fallen into the RB2 role?
Well, I think that Tracy's style predicates itself to better blocking up front. Like, he needs running lanes to expose, and I honestly just don't think the running game is good enough to let him maximize that skill set. Cam Scadaboo brings a lot of energy to your offense, right? He leveled like multiple linebackers yesterday. He's tough to bring down. They bring in Jackson Dart on that option and hands it off to Scadaboo, and he takes it all the way to the 1 yard line, then punches it in right after for a touchdown. Scadaboo was not happy with his performance, by the way. After the game, he was like, 50 yards, that's it? Not good enough. This guy wants more. He plays like he wants brain issues later in his career. But listen, the reality about Cam Scadaboo is that he's the type of player you just lean on. You give him a heavy workload because he's young, he's able, he's getting better, he's starting to see the holes more efficiently, he's breaking tackles, he's imposing his will. He's the kind of guy, like, what he reminds me of, Anthony? It's obviously it's a little bit of a different caliber here, but he reminds me of early day Ezekiel Elliott. And the reason I say that is because Ezekiel Elliott would take hits and deliver punishing hits for half, 3 quarters, full game. By the time the fourth quarter came around, nobody wanted to touch the guy. Nobody wanted to tackle him. They were just battered, bruised, and like, this guy is just a bowling ball. That's what Cam Scadaboo can do for you. You give him 15 touches a game. By the time the third quarter rolls around, there was that one linebacker, Williams, I want to say, number 6, that took a beating from Cam Scadaboo. He was getting rocked all game long. And by the time that the fourth quarter came around, I watched that big run from Jackson Dart. He didn't even want to tackle him. Like, he tried to tackle him up top because he didn't want to lower his pad level and try to hit him in stride. He tried to tackle him up top, and Scadaboo shook him off and ran for an extra 10 yards. Like, that's the type of stuff that you hit somebody over and over and over again, imposing your will like Scadaboo does, and eventually, like, they're not going to want to hit you. They're going to be scared to. So I think that physicality, it brings another element to this Giants offense. It's better for the offense that we're running right now because he can grind out those extra yards because the holes are not big enough to really expose. But, this is also a player that dropped a big fourth down conversion. So I'm not going to say it was all sunshine and rainbows. He did have that big drop. He's got to clean that up. But for the most part, I was very impressed. He had over 4 yards per carry, lots of yardage after the carry. And, he imposes his will and he excites the team. Like, he gives the offense a lot of energy. And I think that the Giants have been needing something like that for a long time.
I agree with you. I mean, the guy has insane contact balance, and he runs like he is pissed off at the world. He wants to punish people. Giants don't have a lot of guys like that, especially when we were just talking about this defense and all the missed tackles that they had. They looked soft. They didn't look like they wanted to punish anybody. Cam Scadaboo, complete opposite, going out there, punching people in the mouth metaphorically, and I love it. So you guys know I'm a big Scadaboo guy, and I was really excited to see him get that touchdown. And I don't know if I necessarily think that he should be the full-time RB1, but I think what the Giants really are setting up here is a committee. Even Devin Singletary got some snaps yesterday. I wasn't crazy about that, though, because I thought that Scadaboo was the hot hand and they should ride the hot hand. And I think that Tracy, he had a 26-yard run on the first drive called back due to a holding. So it's not even like he played poorly. He looked good. Both of those running backs are good. Tracy and Scadaboo. They bring completely different things to the Giants' rushing attack. They bring different things to the receiving game as well. But they're both good young running backs. This needs to be a committee. So I know that I kind of introduced the topic as saying Cam Scadaboo, for all intents and purposes, was a starting running back. I don't think there is a starting running back in this backfield. I think it is truly a duo. And one week you're going to see Scadaboo get more handoffs. The next week you're going to see Tracy get more handoffs. And they're going to go based on the hot hand and based on the matchup and the advantages that they might have with each player having such a vastly different style from one another. So I love what Scadaboo brought to the table yesterday, but I'm excited to see more of him and more of Tracy and more of them together in these game plans as this Giants offense kind of builds upon itself over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Anthony. A lot of my hot takes are coming to fruition right now. Marcus Bowe, the way he performed, Wandale over 1,000 yards, like, actually seems like it could hit earlier than I thought. And Cam Scadaboo having more than at least 50% of the reps by midseason. He already has more than 50% of the reps, and it's week 2. So like you said, it could go back and forth for sure. It could be a Tracy week. It could be because they have Tracy returning kicks now, so I get like why they don't want to do it with him. But And I do like him in that role, by the way. Like, he does have a little bit of gusto there. So, I do like that how they're kind of utilizing their tandem here. And I think that's what good teams do. They have multiple running backs that can offer you different skills and they can do different things with them. So I was pretty encouraged by what I saw from the usage there. But, it also will take pressure off Scotty. It will take pressure off Tracy. It'll keep them fresh or keep them more healthy as the season wears on. But, this is, and I think, Anthony, like, we talk about this team, right, as like we need to win this game. Like, obviously, like, we wanted to win yesterday so badly, and like it would have been really great for us. But this team is one of the youngest teams in football. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at just the overall roster here, they just brought in Adebo and Javon Holland. Those two guys are 25. They feel like veterans, but they're really not that old. They're 25 years old. Cam Scottibo was 22. Jackson Dart just turned 22. Abdul Carter's 22. Like, Kayvon's still 24, 25. Dexter Lawrence is 26, like 27. This is one of the youngest teams in football, right? Neighbors is 22, 23. Like, think about how much talent this team has at such a young age, right? If we had a better defensive coordinator and we have a little bit more experience and a little bit more synergy with this group, this can be a competitive football team. We saw the flashes of it yesterday. In my opinion, at least. Against the Washington Commanders, the defense held in there for quite a long time. Obviously, they ended up breaking in the fourth quarter, but like, they held it together for the most part. I do really believe, based on what I've seen so far, that this team has the capacity to take massive steps in the right direction, but it is only going to do so if the coaching improves tenfold. That is the only way that this is going to really get to where we think it can be. If the offense turns things around and puts together consistent performances like we just saw, it doesn't even have to be like what we just saw. That was like an anomaly of a performance and one of the best we've seen from Russell Wilson ever. Neighbors, best game of his career. Wandale, best game of his career. Like, it's not going to happen on a weekly basis, but if we get 25 points a game from this offense, that would be excellent in contrast from what we've seen in the past. We can feel pretty good about where the offense is heading and what Mike Kafka's done and what Dable's doing there, especially the offensive line, especially when they get Andrew Thomas back, will be a big benefit. But if they can get a real defensive coordinator in there, like kind of like what the Eagles did with Mike Zimmer when they brought him in to be their defensive coordinator, and then they win a chip immediately, if they get someone in that can really elevate things, has a modern approach, can really can expose those strengths and maximize them. The front four pass rush, the secondary, like if they can really maximize that talent, this team can take a big step forward. Of course, we're waiting to see Jackson Dart, and that time will come at some point, but I'm happy with him not playing immediately. Him playing immediately would have been out of desperation, right? It would have been to save jobs. That is not why you want your rookie quarterback to play, to save jobs. You want your rookie quarterback to play because he is ready. It is the right environment. It's organically happening. That transition is happening because it's supposed to at that time. The Giants would have been rushing him to play because they needed him to save people's jobs, to show a spark. And that is not why he should be playing. When he walks into this team to play, this defense should be better. I mean, of course, if it happens this season, I don't think the defense is going to be astronomically better because of Shane Bowen. But we hope that it can be a little bit more I guess consistent. And this offensive line should be in flow and flux and good chemistry. And the receivers should be dominating, which they already are. And I saw a lot better from Theo Johnson, by the way, yesterday. So I am encouraged by his performance as well. But like, I saw a lot of reason that this Giants team can be good. They can be. But the only thing that's going to stop them is the coaching, in my opinion. And we saw that from the disciplinary negatives with the penalties. 21 penalties yesterday, 21 penalties, 11 missed tackles, and one of the worst defensive performances we've seen in a long time, Anthony. Like, this is, if they can clean up that stuff, which is a coaching problem to me, mostly, they can be a good football team. But we've been down this road before of hope and prayers and optimism. They lost yesterday. Have to rewind and understand that. Like, they are in serious danger of starting the season 0-4 if they do not turn things around quickly, because they have another 2 games. The Chiefs are pissed off, and they're 0-2. And the Chargers are a damn good football team. They got to get a win, at least one win out of those next 2 games. Otherwise, it's going to be a big problem, and it's going to be scary. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. It's already a big problem. The Giants should have had a win by now. They should have won this past game, and you're right, going up against the 0-2 Chiefs, the 0-2 Chiefs don't come around too often, and if they are 0-2, you can best believe they're going to be pissed off and ready to make sure that no matter what, they're not 0-3. So Kansas City obviously has a lot of problems. I think that they are a beatable team, but it's not going to be an easy one. Giants with their home opener next Sunday evening. It's going to be a fun one, I think, especially now that we know that this offense has some legs, but it's going to be a tough one. You're probably going to see another shootout if this Giants defense looks like the way it did yesterday afternoon. And honestly, Alex, this team reminds me, at least yesterday's game, reminded me of the 2015 Giants. Do you remember that team with James Betcher, I believe it was, as the defense coordinator? Maybe not 2015. I don't remember when James Betcher was the guy. He might have been a little bit later on. I think he was like 2019. But in 2015, that defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. But Odell and Eli were constantly scoring touchdowns. Like maybe. I mean, they were scoring touchdowns all the time. They were putting up big numbers, but the defense just couldn't get a stop in the clutch. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember
that was a rough season, but that's what that game yesterday reminded me of. It was 2015 Giants, like a classic 2015 Giants game.
Like 2025 defense Giants.
Yeah, Chad Muma with the hair.
Chad Muma.
I remember him.
That's crazy. Let's look at this really quickly. So they had JPP, Landon Collins, DRC, Prince Amukamara was on that team, but they had somebody that was like, what? Like I remember just like being very confused.
Well, 2016, their defense was incredible. They added a bunch of talent on the offense. They had Snacks Harrison and Vernon. But in 2015, the defense was atrocious. But the offense would score all these points. They would lose shootout after shootout. I remember that Patriots game where Odell had like that 80-yard touchdown, and then they lost inexplicably in the end because they couldn't get a stop against, Tom Brady. But still, they should have won that game. And there was a Cowboys game as well that season. I think they lost in a shootout. They just lost a bunch of shootouts that year. That's what that game yesterday reminded me of. But I will also say this. You mentioned some of the hot takes that are looking good for you so far. My hot take all throughout the week was that the Giants were going to win this game and be competitive, and that the offense was going to put up big points. I was right about that. I think that a lot of people misinterpreted what happened in week one. Russell Wilson was not the problem in week one. A lot of people were quick to say Jackson Dart needs to start immediately. I made the argument that, hey, if the offense sucks again for the first half in week two, if they don't have a single touchdown at the end of the first half, they're not in the red zone at all, then yes, you can make the argument to put Jackson Dart in for the second half in week two. But then I always ended that argument whenever we'd have that conversation throughout the week, Alex, by saying this is theoretical, and I don't believe this is going to happen because I think Russell Wilson is going to play with a fire under his chair in week two, and he is going to score points in week two. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm happy that I got that one right. I'm just so upset that the defense is what let us down, and that's why we lost the game, because Russell Wilson, in a career day, 450 yards is a career high for him. 3 touchdowns. He went 7 of 11 on 20-plus yard passes. He had Malik Neighbors for 2 deep bombs of touchdowns. He had a bomb to Wan'Dale Robinson. 2 bombs to Wan'Dale Robinson, one of them resulting in a touchdown, the other one down inside the 5 and brought back by James Hudson, of course. But Russell Wilson deserved that win. The Giants offense absolutely deserved that win because that is the best offensive performance that I've seen from the Giants in probably 7 years, maybe. Since the Eli Manning days for sure. So it was really impressive. I'm so pissed off that this defense let this team down, but I am encouraged. I do think that this offense can be solid. I think it can win some games for this team. They just need to play one complete game of football in all 3 phases of the game, and then they will win. But until they're coached properly, it is a lot. Until they're properly coached, that's not going to happen, and that's what this is coming down to for me. Week 1, I thought they were out-coached. Week 2, once again, they were out-coached. Against a rookie head coach in Schottenheimer, I mean, there's just no excuses. So I'm really upset about this loss. It was a heartbreaker, like I said. Absolutely, the Giants offense deserved this win, and Shane Bowen deserves time in the penalty box for
like I said,
what he did yesterday.
They should ship him to Papua New Guinea to live with the indigenous people, because that's the truth, man. He needs to be left on an island, isolated, where all he has is a bow and arrow to survive. Because what we saw yesterday was criminal activity, solitary confinement. Yeah. That's where he should be, to think about what he just did to this team. The opportunity, we said it in real time. If the Giants win this game, it'll feel like a change of the bell, a change of the guard. You know what I mean? Like they finally got a big win in Arlington, and instead they gave it to the Cowboys, and now they're in a really difficult spot with a really hard schedule, starting 0-2. Like, Shane Bowen may end up getting Dable or Joe Shane fired. Like, that's how bad he's been. I do think that he probably will get fired mid-season, and they will go to They might even elevate Andre Patterson at this point to be the DC, because like I actually don't think it could be any worse than what we've seen. Shane Bowen does not demand discipline from his team, like from his unit. He does not demand discipline because they consistently make the same mistakes over and over again. But when you talk about 2015 defense, Anthony, I was just like scrolling through. I got to 2018. Oh my God. The linebacker I was thinking of was Alec Ogletree. That was the guy. Oh my God. The days of Alec Ogletree and BJ Goodson. And BJ Goodson. Oh my goodness.
Terrible.
Remember Curtis Riley? This is James Betcher's.
Yes.
In 2015, it was actually Spags. That was still the DC. But 2018 now, we're all the way. Curtis Riley, no angle Curtis Riley. Literally, bro needed to take a geometry class because he could not find the right angle to tackle somebody. It was horrible. Like, this is obviously looking into the past now, but we're seeing similar results. And you know what John Mara said at the end of last season, right? He said, I'm tired of watching teams go up and down the football on us on defense. And then so the Giants said, okay, yeah, like that's fair. Like let's solve that. They spent $100 million on 2 players in the secondary and draft Abdul Carter and Darius Alexander, and they give up 40 points in Dallas. 40 points, and they should have given up 40 against the Washington Commanders too, because Jaden Nails missed some big throws in that game. Inexcusable. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll have to come together behind the scenes and say, if we don't fire Shane Bowen, he's going to get us fired. Because that's honestly, we talk about Jackson Dart starting and to save jobs. They need to consider firing Shane Bowen to save their asses at this point, because he's making them look really bad. They invest substantially in this unit, and he's throwing it right back in their face. They have to make a change over the next couple weeks if this continues to happen and they don't get better, because it's inexcusable. Like they literally will get fired because of this man's performance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're not wrong about that. Brian Daboll is coaching for his job. He's 0-2 now, so his seat is getting hotter by the minute. And Shane Bowen is to blame for them being 0-2, because really they should be 1-1. The offense is to blame for the first loss. The defense is to blame for the second loss. Somehow, Alex, in week 3, the special teams is going to be the reason to lose. That's just the trend here. It's going to go through all 3 phases. So I hope I'm wrong. I really want to see the Giants win in week 3, and I do think that they can. I said that they could win in week 2. I said that they have the potential to, and that they definitely were going to have a better offensive performance. I was right about that, and I'm going to be right when I say that they're going to bring it to Kansas City in week 3. They're going to compete all 4 quarters and maybe extra if they have to again in week 3. I hope that they end up with a win. It's going to be tough, though. The Chiefs are the Chiefs at the end of the day. But listen, guys, to wrap this thing up, like we said, the defense, what a disappointment and a heartbreaking loss. It sucks. We're pissed off. We don't feel good about it. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of encouraging aspects of this game to pull from and to look forward with and say, hey, at least the offense gave us some life in this one. At least Russell Wilson turned back the clock. We're not going to be talking about should Jackson Dart start for the next 4 episodes, and I'm really happy about that. We're going to be talking about, hey, Malik Neighbors really could go for the Triple Crown this year. We're going to say, hey, Russell Wilson really might start over 10 games this season. We're going to have a complete shift in the narrative from where we were a week ago in a positive way. However, negatively, this defense needs to solve those problems. James Hudson needs to be shipped off. Shane Bowen, ship him out too. Get rid of those guys because they are destroying this team right now. And this is a Giants team that needs to win games, and this is a Giants fan base that desperately needs to see their team win some games. So I'm hoping they can make the proper adjustments. They're going to have to make them quick. And week 3, it's going to be another tough one. But we're going to be really excited to break that one down and live react to it and all of that fun stuff that you're accustomed to here on Fireside Giants, powered by Sleepers. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go New York Giants.
Perfect.